Hey, how's it going guys? And today I'm going to be bringing you a video on 10 things I wish I knew sooner for the First Descendant. Now, a lot of these things can be used for both the early game and the end game, but a lot of them are focused around the early game, but they do lead into the end game. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So the first thing I actually want to talk to you guys about is the mastery rank. Now the mastery rank is very important because this XP bar only progresses for the first time you level up a weapon or a descendant. Now, if you're new to the game, you might say, hold on a minute, what do you mean the first time you level up a weapon or a descendant? Now the way this game works in terms of leveling up is once you get a weapon to level 40, as you can see my thunder gauge here is level 40, what happens is it unlocks room for assigning a mod slot. So now if I go ahead and assign this R slot, it will consume a crystallization catalyst, but it will reset my proficiency level. So that means this gun will then reset to level 1, and I'll be able to level it back up to level 40. And once it hits level 40, I can reset it. Now what resetting it does is, as you can see, this number here is green. So if I put this, let's say I put this mod here, so it currently costs 14, but if I assign a mod slot, it cuts down the capacity for that and allows more room for putting in more mods that are more powerful and making the gun overall stronger. But in the early game, you don't want to worry about that too much. What you kind of want to focus on is getting this mastery rank up as quick as possible, and as increasing the rank as high as possible. Now the best way to do that is, as you get weapons in the game, use them, level them up. Once they hit 40, or the enemies that you're fighting are overpowering you, switch over to a new weapon. Don't keep leveling up one weapon and putting crystallization catalyst into it, because you will not be getting XP for that. Same thing goes for the descendant. Try and unlock as many descendants as you can early on in the game. A lot of them are very easily acquirable. They do take a bit of grinding, but I mean, that is the focus of the game, to grind out and unlock stuff. So I would focus on trying to get that mastery rank as quick as possible. So the second thing I'm going to be talking about is actually the weapon tiers. Now there are a couple of tiers in the game, but we primarily only use 2, I guess, towards the middle to end game. These are these yellow ones, which are the ultimate, and the purple ones, which are the rares. Now you do have the standard type, which are the blue, which you will usually get just by completing missions, killing enemies, completing void fragments, basically just doing anything in the game. You will acquire rares and standards. Now standards you will see a lot more commonly in the early game when you're completing the normal campaign and your first run of the campaign. And as you can see, they've got all the stats. You got your DPS, fire rate, firearm attack, all of this stuff, right? Now one main difference between a standard weapon and anything higher is, if you look at a rare weapon, you've got 4 perks. Now these perks are randomly rolled, and you can further roll them with different resources. However, the main point from this is, once you get a blue weapon, it's great. You can use it to farm XP and mastery rank. But once you acquire a purple weapon of the same type, I would recommend switching over to that, as it will help you greatly when you're in that push of your first campaign. Now, what I wouldn't recommend doing is, if you have a purple weapon, let's say at level 7, and then you have a blue weapon that you really like, and it is level 10, for example. What I wouldn't recommend doing is looking at the level of the blue weapon and saying, hey, this is level 10, it's clearly stronger, let me use that, because that might not be the case. With the purple weapon, depending on the perks that it has, it might actually outperform that blue weapon. So it's very important you keep track of these stats and kind of do a quick mental maths check and see, maybe, okay, this weapon is actually stronger. Now this actually takes me on to my second point. Now as you can see, this vestigial organ is level 100, and explosive attack, the 4th perk there, is actually in gold. Now what that means, gold, purple, blue, and white are the 4 tiers these perks can kind of drop in its range. Now, gold being the best, purple being the second, blue being the third best, and then white being, the worst. Now, if I had this vestigial organ hypothetically at level 1, and its gold explosive attack was 5%, for example, when I then power up that weapon to a level 100 level, that explosive attack number will not rise with it. It will stay the same, meaning I've wasted resources because I could have just gone and farmed a level 100 vestigial organ, and it would have had maybe like a blue or a purple explosive attack. And if I got lucky, maybe a gold. So I wouldn't have to waste resources in finding, the god roll vestigial organ that I had at level 1 and leveling it up to a level 100. I could have just found a level 101, not waste resources leveling up, and then just farmed the rolls. So if you do find a good weapon in the early game that's, below a level 100, don't keep it for the sake of, hey, I'm going to use this in end game, it's going to be great. Because once you level it up, those abilities will scale downwards and it'll be useless, essentially. So the third thing I want to talk about is actually our Descendant modules. Now, the main thing I want you guys to take away is the sub-modules, or some people like to call them melee modules. Now, what these modules do is they all have a capacity of 0. And what they do is they provide small buffs to your melee, and some of them actually provide changes to your grappling hook. Now, what I use clearly, as you can see, is I use a long distance maneuvering grapple. I believe that is the one I prefer the most. But you will probably have one of these ones at the start. So if you go ahead and equip these, you can see it changes nothing to your module capacity. But to get free module capacity early on in the game, the best thing to do is to level up one of these. And as you can see, even though it costs 10, it doesn't actually take away from our module capacity, but it increases it by 10. As you can see, 70, I add it on, it's 80. So early game, this is a great way to get 10 plus module capacity. 10 plus may not seem like a lot, but when you don't have an energy activator and you get a plus 10, that's like a 20% increase in your module capacity, and it can basically kind of set the foundations of whatever build you're kind of trying to go for. So first module I will build is long distance maneuvering, and this module is fully universal in terms of it can be used on any descendant. A lot of modules kind of, might only focus or might only benefit certain descendants, whereas the sub module here can go on any descendant and it benefits any descendant. So always focus this module first, especially in the early game when you're kind of scarce on resources and stuff. Now, the fourth thing I want to quickly go over is reactors. Reactors are extremely important, and when I think about it, I can't stress how many times I've probably farmed like a really good reactor and then not really understood what the secondary stats and stuff mean, and I've just kind of overlooked it and then just hit, held tab to mark everything as junk and then press control to shift to dismantle everything. So when you do kind of find your descendant that you like and you want to build into it, before just dismantling all your reactors, do take a look into the actual reactor. So for example, let's take a look at the one I'm using currently. So the one I'm using, as you can see, it is an ultimate reactor. It's a non-attribute skill reactor, so it will buff my Valby. It's a dimension skill reactor, so that means all of my dimensional mods, such as my my cleanup and my plop plop, it will enhance at a greater effect compared to the rest of my skills. As you can see on the bottom, my Q and Z have a lower skill power compared to my C and V. And the two extra substats at the bottom, skill duration up and skill cooldown down. As you can see, the blue and gold, their buff can be higher, especially the skill duration up can be a purple or a gold, making it even stronger. However, that's perfectly fine for the build I'm going for. You also, on ultimate reactors, you have the optimization conditioning, which is the afterglow sword. So if I'm using that weapon, it actually gives me the skill power of 160% and not just 100%, which is the base. So once you guys do have a descendant that you like, I would highly recommend looking at its abilities, looking at what type of skill power they are, and then when you do find these reactors, which are quite fairly common in the game. Before dismantling all of them, I would have a quick scan through all of them, see if there's anything that stands out and anything that can support your Descendant. As once you do find that God roll, hold on to it, because they are very hard to come by sometimes, especially with the amount of rolls they have. It's quite hard to farm one specific one, so constantly keep an lookout for that. Now, for my fifth point, it's very similar to the second point that I made regarding the weapons. Is your primary focus should be to push through your first playthrough of the campaign. You want to unlock that hard mode. You don't want to be on normal mode, as normal mode, once you play through the campaign, basically you're going to do almost every sort of farming and any sort of missions you're going to be doing on hard mode, as hard mode is where you get your level 100 weapons and reactors and components and all of that stuff, and all the good gears and all the good, basically anything that's worth going after in the game is typically acquired through the hard mode. And if it is acquired for the normal mode, it's at a far lower drop rate, so it's usually not worth your time going to. So ideally, you kind of want to focus on the hard mode. You might see, okay, I've got this Afterglow sword. It's one of the 2 better snipers in the entire game. You might see it, and say, hey, I want to go for this Afterglow sword and try to farm for it in normal mode. I'm not sure if you can even acquire all the pieces in normal mode. I wouldn't recommend doing that in normal mode. I would, push through the campaign. It's fairly straightforward. It can get a bit challenging depending on, how comfortable you are with the game. However, the campaign is fairly straightforward. There's always people out there to help you. So I would recommend pushing through the campaign as quick as possible and getting into that hard mode. Now, the sixth point I would like to make is to kind of be resourceful with your gold and Kuiper. As you can see, I'm kind of broke with gold, actually. And you need gold for basically everything. In the early game, you have a lot of gold just because you might not know what you want to focus on. You might not know what you want. But just because you get a lot of gold doesn't mean you go and spend it on upgrading random modules that you think are good. Of course, at the end of the day, it's your game. You can choose however you want to play it. You don't need to listen to me or anyone else for that matter. You can make whatever builds you want, however you want them. However, if you do want to have the most ideal and best setups and stuff, I would highly recommend following a guide or a build somewhere, as they've done all the work for you. All you have to do is go ahead and copy it. But gold is very important when it comes to leveling up modules. Like, a module can cost anywhere from 2 to 4 million to max out. The best farms in the game currently produce about 6 to 7 million gold an hour, so that's about 45 minutes to level up one module. And you can have, anywhere from 10 to about 6-7 modules to make like a pretty good build. So, that's a lot of hours of grinding just for one weapon or one Descendant. So I would be very resourceful with your materials. And, don't just spend because you think that's the right. Do a bit of research, take a couple of steps back and just throw a quick Google search and saying, what are the best mods to, level up, or what's the best mod for this weapon or this Descendant, and, see what pops up. The seventh thing I would like to emphasize is this game, as fun as it is and as great time as I've had playing it, it does get quite repetitive. It does get quite tedious. It does get quite long, especially when you're on those long and difficult grinds. And especially playing this solo, as I typically do play, it does get quite boring. I usually keep myself occupied whilst watching Netflix or, browsing on YouTube or watching some other YouTube videos. But I would recommend, put something else on, watch TV at the same time, play with friends. You can always use a Discord LFG, get a group together, talk, have fun. Don't, burn yourself out too much, as it's very easy to burn yourself out in this game. And you don't want that, because it is a great game, and I guarantee you will have fun in the end game if you just don't burn yourself out and kind of, pace yourselves and have fun, have a bit of fun and play with friends. Now the eighth thing that I would like to talk about is try to acquire all 5 attribute types in terms of the Descendant. Now, the reason why I say this is because to acquire certain stuff in the game, such as void shards, you need to be on a certain element of character. So the 5 elements are obviously non-dimensional, fire, chill, electric, and toxic. And to acquire certain shards, you need to be on a certain character or a character of a certain attribute in order to acquire shards, which you can then use to focus and open other stuff later on in the game. So I would definitely slowly but surely acquire one of each Descendant. Have a read through, see which one kind of tickle your fancy, see which ones you like the sound of, see which one perhaps your friends are playing, what they recommend, and try and focus those Descendants at the same time whilst you're trying to go through that campaign, whether that's your first playthrough or you've already unlocked hard mode and you kind of want to get into the building and farming out the end game items. And in addition to that, the ninth one kind of plays over into that, is do not target farm one specific part for one specific item. For example, let's just say, I would like, I don't know, the Afterglow Sword. I mentioned that before. So we've got the Afterglow Sword. So you can see the Afterglow Sword can be found, all of its parts can be found from all of these Asmodeus materials. Let's just take 94, for example. So you've got the 10% drop rate here. Now, a 10% drop rate, yes, it means 10%, but it also means 90% of the time you will not be getting that drop. So if you go ahead and farm out pattern 094, and you farm it, let's just say 5 times hypothetically, and you open all 5 of them up, there's basically a 50% chance, roughly a 50% chance you won't even get the item. But on the offset, you might actually get maybe a lunar code, you might actually get the blue beetle synthetic fiber blueprint, you might actually get a crystallization catalyst blueprint, which is super key. And if your RNG rolls correctly, you might even get the ultimate Ajax spiral. So try and find patterns that actually drop more than one thing you want. So one thing I would always recommend is crystallization catalysts and blueprints, and energy activators are on every single pattern. One of either or will always be on. So if you're going after the crystallization crystals, try and find a pattern that gives that plus the item you're looking for. And if you're trying to farm, I don't know, an ultimate Descendant, maybe you can dig in 3 times into that pattern and get 3 of them. So this 94 for me personally would be perfect because I still don't have ultimate Ajax. I still need 2 more versions of the Afterglow Sword, and I can never have enough crystallization catalyst. So this might be something I would go for over something like this, for example. This one only offers me 1 part of the Afterglow Sword, and there's nothing else really that I actually want right now, minus the energy activator blueprint. But this only offers me 2 things that are decently rare out of 3 things that, out of the 5 things that I don't really want. So I would go for the 94 here. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about when it comes to target farming, and basically don't do it, kind of trying to incorporate multiple farms into one. Now, the page I'm on here actually brings me into my next step. The most powerful tool, more powerful than Google, than Reddit, than YouTube, that's available to anyone that plays First Descendant, is actually this tab right here, the Access Info tab. Now, this tab is basically comprised of anything and everything this game has to offer. Anything that you can acquire in this game, anything that you might want in this game, anything that you want to focus on in this game can be acquired here. Every single Descendant is listed, every single weapon, enhancement material, module, component, anything. For example, you load into the game and you want to farm Ultimate Bunny because you hear everyone talking about her. You click onto it and you can see exactly what you need. If you press F into it, it shows you exactly where you can acquire it from. If you then click onto whatever, it will then ping it onto the map and it will show you exactly how to get there. Now, if we go back to this page, Same thing for the weapons. You want a weapon, let's just say, for example, you hear everyone talking about the Afterglow sword, like I've been talking about. You need this piece, you press F onto it, or whatever the respective key is for your system. You've got the pieces here, you click onto it, and you can see exactly from 62. Now, where did you get 62 from? From this outpost right here. This by far is the most powerful tool. And what I would then do is take it a step further. As you can see, when I did click on Afterglow sword, it said I could get this from, let's say, number 2, 112, 62, and 100. What I would then do is actually I would head over to the amorphous material page and type these in. So let's just say one of them was 112, I believe it was, or 122, sorry. So now this actually tells me what else I can acquire from this blueprint. And, you know, I can figure out, do I want to use this blueprint or not? You know what? I don't actually need anything else from here. So what I might then go ahead and do is, you know, you can also search exactly what item. So for this example, I've got the Afterglow sword polymer Cynthium, however you pronounce that. So I'm going to go ahead and type that into this. So I've got the Afterglow sword polymer. So all of the amorphous materials that are listed here will all have that piece. So this one's got it, and it drops at a 32% drop rate. This one's got it, it drops at a 32% drop rate. 62 has it, 32% drop rate, and 002 drops it at a 6% drop rate. So now I know I don't really want to farm using 002. I'll farm with one of these three. And then you can narrow it down even further. I actually do need that Ajax piece. So that's 2 out of 5. I also need crystallization blueprint. So I might actually do the 62 farm. You know what? This only offers me 2 out of 5. I don't really need anything else on that. So I won't be doing 100. And 122, I already have ultimate Glay. I could do with the crystallization blueprint. I could do with the Afterglow sword part. I don't need the other 2 bits. So for me personally, the best bet for me would be to go ahead and farm 62. Now, the only time something else comes into matter is if for example 62 takes far longer to farm than 122. But for a rough estimate, you know, usually most patterns on average will take about 5 minutes to farm one out. Now, whether it takes 5 minutes to open the pattern is a different story, but to farm and acquire the pattern, it takes about 5 minutes to do. And once you reach at, you know, the super end game, you can basically kill most hard bosses within a minute. So opening them and, you know, using the fusion reactors to open doesn't really matter. So the access info by far is the most powerful tool, you know, any First Descendant player can have. Far better than YouTube, far better than Google, Reddit, whatever. So this is basically kind of like, you know, your A to Z guide on anything you'll ever need. Modules, you know, you're playing Glay, for example, you want to see what Glay mods they have, so you just type in Glay and all her mods come up. I don't know why that's actually there. Oh, because it works with Glay specifically. But so these are all the modules that are actually focused on Glay. These only can be used on Glay. So if you want to go ahead and see, you know, what potential builds you could do, what the potential of your descendant is, you could go ahead and look at these. And then, like I said, for example, demonic modification, this is one of the strongest Glay mods there is, I guess. Explosive light, super good. Blood and iron and predator instinct is probably one of the 2 of the better ones. Segmentification is also extremely strong, but let's just say predator instinct is what you want to go for. Press F. Oh, make sure you click off it. Press F and you can see you get some hard pyromaniac. Click onto it and you can literally load straight into the activity, and it would basically teach you how to acquire anything you want. So those are my, you know, 10 things I wish I knew sooner when I first started playing the First Descendant, as it would have saved me a lot of time. I've currently got about 300 hours into the game. The descendants I have currently look like this. So I've got 4 ultimate characters. I've not bought any of them. I do have currency in the game, but that's purely cosmetics and stuff. I've never actually bought any of these characters or anything. And yeah, you know, I've made decent progress. I'm mastery rank 20. I've completed all the normal and hard mode bosses. I've accomplished a decent amount. I may not have all the strongest builds in the game and all the weapons unlocked, but you know, I've had fun playing, and I definitely think I could have gotten to this stage a lot quicker had I known the 10 tips that I've just talked through. So hopefully one or two of these tips actually help you guys and, you know, make your gaming experience better in the First Descendant. I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I hope one of some of these tips actually help you guys out. If you guys did enjoy the video, please do, you know, comment down below what tip helped you out the most and if you learned something new. And if you do have anything else you want to add to the list, do also comment it down below. Maybe it helps someone else out in the comments. Yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please do leave a like and sub if you're new. And thanks for watching. Take care.